Don't you start again? So sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. Good evening to all our viewers all over the world. And you are welcome to MCB Real Life Talk Show. It's another beautiful day. It is the day that the Lord has made, and He said we should rejoice and be glad in it. I just want to use this opportunity to say thank you to the Lord God Almighty for great things He has done, is doing, and will continue to do in our lives individually and collectively. It's another privilege, to be alive is a privilege I do not take for granted. I just want to say, be thou exalted to the Lord God Most High. Praise God. Today, as usual, I'm your host, Carol Babalola. And as usual on this show, we bring powerful, beautiful, brave, and bold women of substance to this show to share their life experiences with you, just to encourage you, to empower you, and to inspire you into your destination. Yeah, of course, we all go through. You know that we all go through. But some people will just be thinking, when that winter of life comes, when that challenges of life come, you think you are the only one that have been through. No, that's not true. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Today, I'm going to bring somebody, that is that has been through, but is here to testify to the glory of God, because the Lord God is with her, and He has, held her on. Before I introduce my sister, I just want to encourage you with this word and let you know that your greatest vulnerabilities in life can fuel your greatest triumph, which simply means that you turn your pain to a purpose. Yeah, you might be saying, oh no, it's not easy. But in life, the moment you realize or you accept that this thing has happened, can you do anything to it? No. Can you change it? No. So what can you do? Is to accept it that this thing has happened to you, and then what life has to continue. And the funny thing about life is that, both rich and poor, we all go through it. The Bible said, rain fall upon the just and unjust. So I just want to encourage you, if there is anyone out there that is going through one issue of life or the other, just take courage and believe that God will see you through. And indeed, He will see you through. He gives you that peace in the midst of trouble, and you'll be shocked the way that you are, recovering. It's a process. It's not a thing that you can just snap your fingers and get out of it. No. And we're not saying that. We just want to bring you some example of women that have been through, and yet, they're here to testify it. And of course, they have turned that pain to a purpose. And like I said, let me just encourage you with this word from the Bible, because this is, it's a Christian show. But we invite, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, secular, you are always welcome on this show. But I just want to encourage you with the word of God. According to Job 12:16, it said, to Him belongs strength and victory. Both deceived and deceiver are His. Both the deceived and the deceivers, they are His. So we know at the moment you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, what happened? His sovereign control is over you. And then the moment you accept Him as well, the whole earth is shaking to go against you, just for you to lose your faith or hope in Him. But it's you that will say, no, this is what the word of God says, and this is what I believe. I've put my hand on the plow and I'm not going to look back. So the moment you say this, you see that you'll be victorious, because the Bible made us to understand that we are victorious already. You are victorious already. Say you will, there's trouble and tribulation in this war, but if you are in him, you are victorious already. So I just want you to put that in your subconscious mind, in your conscious mind, not subconscious mind, so that you, in time of trouble, which will come, it will always come, whether you like it or not. Just to know that, you know what, I can go through it. And indeed, you'll be able to go through it. And an example in the Bible is Job. We all know what he went through. You know what he went through. You know, he lost so some of his members of his family. He lost all that he had. I think he was the first person that was bankrupt in the whole wide world. You know, so bankruptcy have not just started now, it started long ago. He was diseased with terrible disease, and they, to add insult, his friends, you know, despised him. They brought, you know, he had no trust with his friend. They didn't even, you know, believe what he was or who he was. Okay, and to cap it all, what happened? The wife told him, say, curse this girl and die. But he didn't. He said, you know what? All in all, my redeemer liveth. That was what he said. That was his testimony. And indeed, God restored him back. The Lord that restored Job back will restore you back in the mighty name of Jesus. Okay. Thank you very much for listening to me. And please share this video, like our YouTube channel, MCB TV channel. I will really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Invite people because they'll be encouraged by our guests today. All right. Without further ado, I just want to invite my next guest on this program. She's my sister. She's a friend. She's a woman of substance. She's beautiful. She's brave. She's bold. She's an author. She's a journalist. She's a motivational speaker. She's a moderator, a leader. You know, oh my God, she wears many hats. You know, she's a consultant. She's a media consultant. She's a founder of Voice of Hope Women Foundation, a platform which encourages women, you know, to take their place in the society. Who is this woman? She's no other than Lady Yemi Akinola. Hello, Lady Akinola. How are you?
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I'm fine. Thank you so much, Minister Carol, for having me on your program. It's an honor, it's a privilege. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. You're looking so beautiful. I like your blue.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Where do I start? I think you've done the introductions, haven't you? You've about said it all. You've about said it all. I have a background in...
And tell us about yourself, about your upbringing. We just want to know a little bit more about you.
Okay, who is Lady Yemi? First of all, I'm a lover of God. I'm a daughter of Zion. So for that, I do not take it for granted. I thank God for knowing Him and growing up in Him. Secondly, I was born several decades ago, and I had my primary education at Clitterhouse Primary School in Golders Green. After primary school, we relocated to Nigeria, and I continued at the Federal Government College Sokoto, and then I moved on to Federal Government Girls College Oyo and the Federal Government College Lagos for my advanced level. After that, I was at the University of Lagos, where I had my first degree, and then I served at UCH Ibadan with an honors in BSc Sociology and Economics. And after that, I worked for a while, and then I found myself back in the shores of this country. So after I got back here, I started business. I've been in business for so many years. and the chance opportunity came. I went to advertise my shop at a television station, and I thought, this is an opportunity. This is something I can do. And so I started, learning the ropes. I had to start from scratch. I went back to school. So I went to the London School of Journalism, and I got myself a couple of certificates so that I knew that I was practicing what I was doing. And after that, one thing led to the other. I just kept on going on in the media. Initially, I was doing different things. I did the news, and then I had a show on tourism. And a chance opportunity came up for the radio. We were just starting up a radio show at the station then. And I thought, let me try something different. I don't want to do, news anymore. I don't want to do lifestyle show. I don't even want to talk tourism on radio. Let me do something different. So that was where I started with the women issues, women affairs. I started my radio show called Feminine Matters. And from there, I started, trying to create awareness about women issues and what it is that, women do not want to talk about. I believe that being on the television might be too harsh for them. You would see their face, you would know their names, and some of the issues they're talking about, they might not want to be recognized. So I said, okay, a radio show, you don't have to give us your real name, just call in, we'll just discuss the topics. But unfortunately, even with that, women were not ready to own their own stories. A lot of them, gave us names that we could not verify, but that didn't really matter. It was the fact that even with that, they still didn't want to own up to the stories that they were telling. And that for me was a case of concern, because I thought, what is happening here? I mean, if something is happening to you, why do you not admit it so that we can find a solution to it? But I realized that there's been a conspiracy of silence over the years regarding women issues. A lot of things that we as women would love to discuss, they are hush-hush topics. And our cultural and religious background has made us to believe that we should not talk about these issues. So a lot of women suffer in silence. There are a lot of things that, they could receive some kind of guidance, or they could receive some kind of help with, they could receive some kind of group counseling with, but they have refused to come out and share that. So that has made it difficult for them to access the help that is readily available. With the radio show, I realized that there was a gap. And I started to put down, to write down all the things, every week we had the show, different topics. Today, domestic violence, widowhood, I could talk about cancer. We'll talk about anything, financial issues, business, women and mental wellness. So as we were discussing, I started to journal these things. And to the glory of God, that led to a book. After a while, I thought all of this should not go to waste, so it led to a book. And that was my first book, Empowering Women for Leadership. And
We'll come back to
from
that
there,
later. We'll come
yes,
back to the book
that was
later.
the first
Thank you
book,
very much.
Empowering Women for Leadership. And then from there, and so on and so forth, I started with the foundation. The book led to the foundation, Voice of Hope for Women Foundation, where our slogan is a voice for the voiceless. So any topic at all that is taboo, that you don't want to talk about, just bring it to Lady Yemi. I'm ready to discuss it. No, nothing for me is too much. As long as it will help a woman out there, let's talk about it. Let's find solutions. Let's see what we can do to make it better. So that is what the foundation is about.
Thank you very much. That's wow. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
We women, we like to hide. I think it's because of our culture, because of shame, because of stigma, because we're told when we're young, don't wash your dirty linens outside. So I think that's the reason why women don't like talking about their stories or telling people about their problems. And thank God we're beginning to, go, beyond all that. Now we are here now to share our stories. We're raising awareness and trying to encourage more people to come out to tell us, and sometimes you just see other people, women up there, you think they never went through any problem. And that can
I
actually
doubt that.
help. It leads to
I
mental.
doubt that.
Start thinking, so look at Minister Carol. Oh, she's like this. You don't know what I am going through. And sometimes, we just wear that mask outside, and then people think you are all in or not knowing what you're going through. Lord help us.
Everybody has a story. It's just if you're ready to share. And one of the things that is like you rightly said, women are coming out more, they're owning their stories more, they're raising their voices. And one good thing about this is like when women come out, when we see them, that is why if you are a mentor, you have to know that people are watching, and whatever it is that you're doing, they're taking it on board. You don't know how it's going to affect that person. You're just doing your thing normally. But once
Mm.
you put yourself out there and you say, I want to start to talk, I want to be a voice for the voiceless, it encourages other people to open up and talk about their issues, knowing that, especially if you're free to share your story anywhere, because then you are preaching, you're saying, you're doing what you preach. So it's not just a case of, oh, talk about it, and then it comes to certain issues, you find it difficult to share. So that's where my second book came from, Pain to Purpose. Because when I was talking about leadership, I said nothing was too much, even leaders hurt. So as a leader, if you're hurting, there's no problem, and then, but when it does happen to you, you realize that, oh,
It's
it's a
not
little bit
easy.
difficult.
Mm.
It is a little bit difficult, yes.
Mm. All right. Thank you very much for all that. Before we get to your book, I just want to you've said so much, okay? But you work. You are a community leader. You work in the community. I want to, as a leader, as a coach, leader coach, just tell us a little bit about that. How are you doing in the community? Are women responding?
Thank you. When you hear the heart community leader, I don't know. I was surprised the first day I was called that, because I thought, what is community and what are you leading? But then you realize that once you have any form of influence at all, once you have, like I said, once you start using your voice to raise awareness about things that are not what has happened to you personally, but something things that you want to create an awareness for, I guess you have some kind of responsibility within the community that recognize you. So with that, there's so many things that you can do depending on what area your passion is in. Now, for the women leadership thing, we do a lot of conferences, we do a lot of workshops. We do these kind of things just to create awareness. And with my foundation, To the Glory of God, we started in 2013. Every year we pick two themes, and it's like a way of giving back to the community. So we pick two themes that we concentrate on, even though there's so many topics that we discuss during the years, but we always have a theme. So the first year it was women trafficking and VVF. We made a lot of noise about that. We created a lot of awareness about that. I had a workshop, I had conference. And then the second year we looked at homelessness and mental health wellness in women. And so every year we pick something that is relative, that people can relate to, that is happening. We can talk about widowhood this year. Next year, we can talk about, cervical cancer, breast cancer. So these are all topics that a lot of women would, at one point in their lifetime, go through, but a lot of people are still reluctant to talk about. So these are the kind of things that will bring issues around.
Well done, sis. And it's very necessary that we bring awareness of such topics to people out there. I think the more we talk about it, the more they'll be able to, to bring to share their own story with us. Like we said earlier on, when you are a community leader, you have to tell them what you have been through as well, for them to know that you too, you feel pain, they feel pain, you've been through some certain
It's
things.
hard. It's
And
hard. Minister Carol, if you remember the first day you called me and you said, "Oh, sis, let's share your story. Why the book?" I told you, I said, "No, I don't want to talk about it." And
mm,
when you put the phone down, I thought to myself, "Okay, this is what you wrote in your book." Because funny enough, my first book, all my kids, they've read it. They know what the book is about. So sometimes when I say something, it's easy for them to quote me and say, "Oh, mom, but you wrote this, but you said this," And a lot of people that have read the book, they're always quick to come back and say, "Oh, but this is what you put in your book." So I thought to myself, "Oh, it's so easy to put it down in words, but now
mm,
time for action. What's going to happen?" And that's when I decided that, okay, if the invitation comes again, I'm going to come up and I'll be able to talk, answer any questions and then share my story.
that's a very good one. And from my introduction, I said something similar. Sometimes we don't own or want something that happened to us. We don't actually want to accept it. But the earlier we accept it and own it and say, okay, this is what has happened to me. Yes, it happened to me. What can I do about it? And then you turn that story or pain to a purpose. And that's just what we are all doing here. And the Lord will help us. And the more we do that, the more we transform lives, the more we tell people out there that they are not alone. Whatever they're
Yes.
going through, somebody has been through. Something might not be the same thing, but it might
Mm,
be very similar. Then the process
exactly.
is same, which you have to follow to get to where you need to be. Because ordinarily some women would just be sick. This mental health problem is getting too much. So by God's grace, we do the little we can to just bring women out of it. All right. Thank you very much for that. I want you to tell us a little bit about your foundation. I think you said something about your foundation.
Yeah.
At this very point in time, I think your foundation is very, very will I say is very important, or because of the mental health issue? What are you doing about this COVID time? What's your organization doing?
Thank you very much. At the moment, we're running online conferences. We're running online Zoom conferences. We've been doing that since the inception of the first lockdown. So we started in, I think, April. April was started. Initially, we were just talking about, issues that affected women, because normally we would have our conferences where we could meet probably once or twice a year. I would put up a workshop or a conference. But because we were not able to meet, and because of the COVID lockdown, we had to do that online. And so we started with different topics online, looking at issues that affected women. But as we continued with the different topics, I realized that one topic that kept on coming up was the effect of mental wellness on all of this. So if we're talking about women and their businesses, if we're talking about women and work, if we're talking about women and finances, if we're talking about domestic violence and abuse within the family, if we're talking about, cancer, health, wellness, anything we're talking about, it always boils down to, the mental wellness bit always came up, because whatever is happening in your life, trust me, it will affect you mentally, whether you like to admit it or not. There's this mental psyche. Now, for example, when the lockdown started, I can remember that a lot of times all of us were glued to the television. We were being told the number of cases that were increasing on a daily level. I mean, all the news we were getting on TV, there was none that was really good news. Everything was just the cases have increased. This number of people have died. And gradually we began to realize that it was closer to home, because then we started knowing people that had passed on or had been affected by it. And all of this affected everybody. There's nobody that would say they were not affected. It came to a point my daughter said, Mom, don't watch the TV anymore, because every time you're listening to the news, you're gasping. And I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And she's like, it's better, don't listen to the news. And I said, but I need to keep myself informed. So what we did was that we'll watch the news for about 10-15 minutes in the morning, and then 10-15 minutes again at night, just to keep updated. After that, we were not watching the news per se to listen to the news. We would watch TV, we would play games, we would sing songs, we would do any other thing, but we were not digest, because there was a lot of negative information that we were digesting, and it was affecting all of us. So that is how important mental wellness is at this time, at this very crucial time. And with the second lockdown, I must tell you, Minister Carol, it is again, rearing up its head as people are once more anxious. A lot of people are falling into depression. A lot of relationships are breaking up. People are scared and worried for their jobs. They're scared and worried for, their health. So a lot of people are also being affected at this second lockdown. And I think it's important that, as my foundation is doing, we keep on talking about it. We keep on reassuring ourselves, especially women of the Black and ethnic minority background that are already vulnerable in terms of our cultural and religious orientations.
Thank you very much for what you're doing in the community. It's a great help, and
Thank
I
you.
know it's really transforming lives. All right, that's very, very well informative. If they want to get in touch with you, how can a woman who is going through, or needs help, or need to be signposted, how can they get through to you?
Thank you very much. My organization is called Voice of Hope for Women Foundation. They can get that on Facebook. They can email us vohfoundation@hotmail.com. They can check my website, www.ladyemiakinola.com. They can come through you, Minister Carol. I mean, they can go to my Facebook page, Lady Yemi People and Places. So there are a number of ways that they can get in touch. And if they need to be signposted, I'm not boasting, but I can tell you that a lot of women on my forum, they are very educated, they are knowledgeable, and they will be able to help them in whatever way it is that they can. This last week, we were talking about domestic violence and abuse, and we had a lot of people that came, they joined, and I was surprised that a lot of people shared their personal stories, which is one of the topics that people would really want to talk about and admit that they're going through it. But now I think a lot of women realize that the help is out there, and there's no shame in admitting that you are innocent. How can you resolve a situation if you do not acknowledge it?
Yeah.
So the first thing to do is acknowledge you're hurting. This is not right. This is not how it's supposed to be, you know. And then from there, you can now take steps to correct it, or how you can rectify or move on if the need be. So yes, if you want to contact me, those are all the ways that you can contact me.
Thank you very much. Like you said the first step to healing is acknowledgement.
You have to acknowledge it.
If
You
you don't
have to know that
acknowledge it, there's no way
something is
to
not right.
administer
Yeah.
the medication to you. You just have to, and this is what we're trying to do, to come out there, to bring women to this platform and just to tell you that, you know, you are not alone. We've all been through one way or the other. All right. And the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. We're going
Amen.
to talk about your book now. We're going to talk about your book. Let me show our viewers your book. That is it. Pain to Purpose. That's a lovely book. It's looking so beautiful.
Thank you.
I like the picture there. And who is standing and saying, "Yeah"? Is that yeah? Is that empowerment or what? Is that woman power also?
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell us about that. How did
The
you come
book,
about the topic? Pain to
Pain to Purpose. Pain to Purpose. Let me start. I'm going to come back to that. Let me start quickly with my first book. Like I said, when I wrote the first book, it was a journal of everything that was happening on the radio show. And I thought that, oh, why are women not talking? You know, why are they not coming? And sometimes I would have some topics and I would get a lashback. People would call me and say, Lady Yemi, you're not supposed to say that. That's too much. You know, are you encouraging women? Are you doing this? And I said, I'm just saying it the way it is. I'm not saying anybody should do anything. I'm just saying, look, if you're suffering from breast cancer and the clinic is there, what is stopping you from going there? You know, don't tell me you're drinking, you're praying and you're drinking water. Yes, you can do that, but what is stopping you from walking to the clinic and also asking for help? And some people will say, "Oh, why do you say that? You know, are you trying to say that there's no power?" No, I'm a woman of
power
faith.
in God
I'm
or
also a woman of faith, but then you have to be also reasonable because God has said He has given everything to us that we need. So, you know, don't suffer for lack of knowledge. If the help is there, go and assess it. Also, if a woman is in a toxic relationship, seek for help. Don't sit down there and say, oh, God doesn't love divorce. At the same time, He said, you know, men should stay away from their mischievous ways. So don't let religion, don't let culture, don't let background orientation, don't let it tie you down and then you kill yourself. And then, you know, you get to the other side before you discover the truth. So when I say these things on radio, sometimes it doesn't sit down well with some people, but then I'm only, you know, don't shoot the messenger. I'm only saying it. So with the book, you know, with the radio show, I was putting things down every time I finished the show. I would be writing, I would be scribbling everything we said. And sometimes I'd be talking to myself and I'd be saying, can you imagine somebody called in and said this? How would they, you know, why do women think this way and all of that? So that was the journal that led to the book. And when I was writing that book, the book itself, it's about 100 or so pages. But when it was being edited, the person that edited it for me had to take off. It took off about 30, 40 pages, and it was just based on faith. And he said, Lady Yemi, I'm taking this out so you can write another faith book because this your chapter on faith is longer than all the other. Because being a woman of faith, I was looking at areas where women, you know, we were using faith and it wasn't to our advantage, and we were just, you know, and I'm like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. So that was it for that. I had to take that out. He said, just take it out, write something small about faith. And if you want to write another book, which is coming up another day, write that and let's know that that is faith-based. Now this book is about empowering women generally. Now, one of the chapters of the book was owning the story. It was finding your purpose. And it was easy for me to write, yes, own your story, whatever happens to you, even leaders hurt, you'll go through life. Everybody in life you will experience one thing or the other. Something will make you stumble, something will make you doubt yourself. So it was good to write it and put it down on paper. Of course, the book was published, it was sold, we launched it, it was beautiful, and then people were reading it and they were referencing it. And then 2 years ago, 2 years plus, I lost a member of my family to cancer. And then I didn't remember that I was an author. I didn't remember that I was a community leader. I didn't remember anything. I was just hurting. I was in so much pain. And to make it, worse, I didn't really know who I could approach. And that's another thing, because at the moment now I'm studying bereavement counseling, because I realize there's a gap. When something happens to you, it leads you to something else. Remember, I said I started with my business. I went to advertise it. Then I went into newscasting. From newscasting, I had my own program on TV. From that, I went to lifestyle programs, and then I moved to radio. So something would lead you into something. And this book now has now led me into bereavement counseling. I'm now studying bereavement counseling, because I realized that our community, we don't really deal very well with death. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to console people when it happens. We don't know the right things to say. We don't know if we have to do anything. So for me, I was reaching out. I tried, to reach out, but I really didn't kind of get the help and the support that I needed. And then I had to allow myself to grieve and move on. But even with that, every day I would journal down how I was feeling. There were some good days, there were some other not so good days. There were some days I could talk about, my late sister. There were some days that if you mention her name, I would just, burst into tears. There were days that I thought I was moving on, and then there were some very bad days that, maybe just a song we used to sing together or something about her reminded me, came up, or, it could even be something that is being, played on the radio, and it would just take me back to when we were growing up. So many things, emotions. You're moved here today, you're moved there today. And I didn't even know if that was normal. I didn't know if that was how I was supposed to be feeling. And sometimes people would see you, they wouldn't know if they're supposed to talk about it. Sometimes you want them to talk to you about it, and acknowledge that this is the pain you're going through, and they don't want to talk about it. They're thinking, oh, I don't want to mention that. So there were so many emotions. But one good thing about it was that I could journal. I know how to write. I'm very good at scripting things. So it was easy for me to every day I come back from work, or even if I'm just sitting at home, I would pen down something and say, this is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. Until I started to discover that I was feeling a bit better. I wasn't crying so much. I wasn't hurting so much. It wasn't so bad. I could now look to the future and say, okay, now what do I do? How do I move on? What are the things we need to do? How do I take care of those that are left? I can't keep on holding on to what has already gone. What do I do with, the people that are around me that are also grieving, and we all have to move on. And from there, I started to put, pieces together again, like I said in my writing. And when the lockdown started, because I wrote this book within 2 months, 6 weeks to 2 months. When the lockdown started, and I stopped watching television, and I thought to myself, okay, so what do? You can't go out, you can't do anything. You're not sure of what's out there. Even if you go shopping, you come back, you have to take off everything and sanitize and rush to the, it was doing my head in. So I thought, what? Go back to your journals. So I went back to the journals that I had written, and it also gave me time to process them. Even with the book that I've written, I had to take out so much, because sometimes you're emotional and you're ranting and you're saying, why me? Why did this happen? This is, you're saying so much, so many things that you don't need to put in the book. So I took all of those out, but then the others that were there, I put them together, and I thought, this can actually help somebody else. It doesn't even have to be the loss of a loved one. It doesn't have to be you're grieving because somebody has died. It could also be a loss of income. It could be a loss in a relationship. It could be a loss in terms of your status. There's so many things that we grieve that we do not know that we're grieving them. And we are not given an opportunity to express ourselves. And then when you are grieving, how do you move on? How do you make sure you don't stay in that grief? Because you have to turn that pain into a purpose. You have to find something to do with that pain. These are the kind of things that you need to think about when you are grieving, because a lot of people, they will turn their pain into negative things. When they are hurting, they turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they can self-harm. Some of them would, turn to pornography. There's so many things that you can turn to that would not achieve, any purpose for you. So when you're grieving and you're hurting and you're in pain, you need to know how to direct that pain into a positive um, situation, a positive vibe, something that can bring a purpose out. And also make sure that the pain does not stop you from achieving your purpose in life. Because don't forget, before that incident happened to you, whatever it might be for you, it might not be the loss of a loved one. It could be an incident in your early childhood. It could be abuse. It could be rape. It could be, denial. It could be anything that has made you to hurt, and you feel betrayed. when that thing happens, don't forget that you still have a purpose in life to fulfill, despite and in spite of that. So, for example, you're a rape victim. Your life doesn't finish. Your life doesn't end because of that one incident. Yes, it's unfortunate, but you still have to move on. You still have to live life after that. You still have to do other things with your life. So you have to find a way of turning your pain, no matter what that pain is for you. It might not be the loss of a loved one like I'm sharing with you. It could be something else, but make sure you turn it into a positive. And these are the things that my book takes you through. It takes you chapter by chapter through how you recognize the pain. You have to understand that you're hurting. You have to realize that probably you might never be able to get that thing back again. For example, you've lost a loved one. That person is not going to come back. So that's another thing you have to realize, that, look, no matter how much I cry and I grieve and I want this person back in my life, they've gone, and they've gone, they've moved on. Even if it is a loss of a relationship, whether it's a divorce, whether it's separation, you have to let go, because sometimes some things are not just meant to be. So how do you move on from that? How do you readjust yourself? How do you now make sure that all of these things do not, yeah, life has kicked you down, but you don't want to stay down, do you? You need to get up and move. You need to show life that, look, I'm much more than this. Throw me lemons and I'll make lemonades out of it for you. So you need to
Yeah.
get up. And these are some of the things that the book tells you: how to get up, how to adjust yourself, how to know that you're on the path to recovery, how to smile again, how to laugh again, how to find joy in little things. And sometimes when we're saying that we need to add a purpose to our pain, it might also just mean, little gestures like forming an initiative, joining a support group. For example, your child died of asthma. Join an asthma group. Find out how you can help. Something that would take your mind away from that pain and make you feel that you're at least, contributing to the legacy of the person that you have loved and lost. So all of these are what the book is about. But for me, it's also a form of release, because I know that sharing my story, I'm not where I used to be. I mean, the pain will always be there, but it's not as sharp and as intense as it used to be. Now I can look to the future and say, okay, what do I want to do with her legacy?
Wow, 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 wow. That's actually sharing from pain to purpose.
Yep.
I can't really tell you. I know how you're feeling, but I know that you're speaking from your heart of hearts. You have actually poured your heart into this book, so that when people read it, they will understand and be able to bounce back to life. Because it's not the end of life. I would say that, because there are other things that have happened to me as well that I can get back. I keep telling people about, I lost my own house, I lost my business, and this is a retirement home that I said, okay, this is what and all of a sudden I lost it. What do you do? Do I have to die because of that? Of course it was painful. Of course I cried. Of course I thought of all kind of things, and shame. Oh, how can I tell people that, I've lost a house? Oh, I had to live with a friend for 3 months with my children. 3 good months. That is another thing I do. Sometimes I don't want to talk about, but I have to tell people that, things does happen. Things does happen, and it will always happen. It's not that you are
The
bad.
funny thing is that there's nothing that happened to us that has not happened before. There should be no conspiracy of silence. Sharing your story doesn't take anything out of you, it only relieves you. Sometimes when I put it out on my social media, oh, do this, I encourage people. I put it out there daily on every morning. People are, watching out for my post. What is she going to say this morning? And then I finish writing it and I think to myself, Oluyemi, now you've encouraged other people. Yeah, get up and encourage yourself.
That's it.
Because that day I might just be feeling terrible. I might be down. I could be broke.
Mm,
There could be so much going on with me. But I've put it out there. Get up, do it. Act it.
yeah.
You say it. I've
It
said
does.
everything.
It actually does. It actually does help. The Bible said David encouraged himself. If you
Yes.
get to a point in time in life that you have to encourage yourself, when you're looking for a pitying party, nobody's going to pity you. Nobody is going to,
That's one of the chapters of my first book. No, say no to pity party, because it's not going to help you.
it's not going to help you.
Nobody wants to hear. Every time you come into the room, you're like sad. Oh, it's that relationship again. Oh, it's my husband again. Oh, it's that my child again. No. After a while, it becomes boring. People want to run away from you because they know that you're just going to come with your negative. Everybody's got stuff that they're going through.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't acknowledge the pain, but don't sit and dwell on it. Find something you can do about it. If it's your child, what does the child need? What can I do to help this child, to get back? If it's a relationship, decide, am I in or am I out? I mean, it shouldn't be rocket science. You shouldn't have to stay somewhere if you're feeling so bad and miserable every time. Try and go for counseling if you think you can revive it. I mean, if it's not revivable, move on. So there's
Yeah.
always something we can do. It's not sitting down and feeling sorry for ourselves. Who is going to help?
Take
Help
it from
anybody.
there. Oh, no, thank you very much for that information. I'm sure it is actually going to help people today, to transform their life and to take the right decision. There's one guest that came to this program some times ago, and you know what she said? She said the reason why God hates divorce is that He knows the pain that a woman had to go through. He knows the pain the woman has to go through, and that is that. You've said so much things, that people grieve in different areas of lives. I
Yeah.
got that. Can you just expatiate on that again? Because some people just
Okay.
think that losing someone only is the only way, where you grieve, but it's in different areas of life.
Yes. So the definition of grief itself is, when you're feeling a sense of loss, a sense of hopelessness, a sense of worthlessness sometimes. So, grief can be defined in so many ways. But when we're talking about people grieving, it does not necessarily mean just the loss of a loved one, a partner, a child, a parent, a sibling, a friend. That's not. Those are not the only times that you can grieve. Sometimes when you lose a business, you grieve. Sometimes when you lose a relationship, you grieve. Sometimes when you lose a friendship, you grieve. There's so many ways that you can grieve. So many reasons why you can grieve. If it's a loss of a status, for example, during this COVID period now, somebody that used to be in business, he goes into work and everybody is saying, yes, sir, yes, ma, he likes that status. All of a sudden, everybody has to work from home. It's not that he's lost the business, he's just lost that status because he enjoyed it. He looked forward to it every day. He liked the fact that people looked up to him and, he was always there in that commanding role. So there will be withdrawal symptoms for that. The first 2-3 days he doesn't go into work, he starts to feel bad, and you're wondering why. Your business is still running. It's just online now. It's no, but he has lost that status, that thing that he believes gives him that respect and standing in the society. So that's also another way of grieving. So you can grieve when you lose a business. You grieve because you've invested money. You lose a house, you grieve because you've invested your time. You've got memories in that house. So there's so many ways that you can grieve. The most common reasons for grieving, I think the three most ones that can cause you depression, that can make you go into feeling of hopelessness or worthlessness, is the loss of a loved one, the loss of job, and of course the loss of a relationship. Those three, in whatever category. Some will put the relationship first, some will put the job first, some will put the work thing first. So in those three categories, when you lose a loved one, when you lose your relationship, when you divorce, a lot of people grieve after the loss of or the end of a relationship, or after getting a divorce, and then when you lose your income. Some people also feel depressed or they grieve when they move homes, and you wonder why. That's because they've lost social contact. You've grown up in an environment, you've got friends there, you're settled there, and then all of a sudden you have to move. That is why when people need to move houses, sometimes there's trepidation. You're saying, "Oh, I'm going to be so far away from everybody," because we need, as human, as social beings, we need that social interaction.
Yeah.
So those are some of the reasons why people can grieve. So there's so many reasons, but the topmost one would be, the loss of a loved one, or the loss of a relationship, or your income or business.
Thank you very much, Lady Yemi. Lady Yemi, thank you very much for
My
this.
sister, my friend.
I just for people watching us, or people who have lost their loved one, or that are going through that traumatic experience, can you just please tell them, the process that you have gone through? I mean, it's not that you forget, but like we said, life has to continue. If life gives you a lemon, turn it to a lemonade. Yes, of course, again, we know that it's easier said than done. But what are these processes that somebody has to, follow to get back to them, their usual self, or even better? and so they will be of help to other people out there.
Mm. The processes, we've got, well, in my book, I think I wrote about 7 or 8 steps. But one thing with grief is that these steps, they're not automatic. They don't follow each other in that sequence. For some people, it could be one way. For some, number 1 could be number 10, number 10 could be number 1. But at the end of the day, when you start to realize that you can smile again, when you start to see yourself laughing again, when you start to find out that sharing the story is not so painful, then you know that you are on the right path. Now, how you will get there is different for everybody, because for each person, the journey of grief is personal. When people say, I know how you're feeling, they absolutely do not know how you're feeling. When people say time will heal, please, that is a lie. You have to be able to stand up to time. Otherwise, you could drown in depression for years, and your people are saying, no, but it's been 3 years. Why are you still like this? Why, it's been 4 years. You should be okay by now. So there's no time lapse to it. When you're feeling grief, there's really nobody can tell you this is the right time. I wrote in my book that, for example, a lady that has lost her husband, after a year or two, she decides to remarry. The society could, they could frown and say, my goodness, what happened just after a year? When did the husband die? How did she know anything about this before? Were they going out before? No. Probably the man had been ill for a while and she has been grieving. There's what we call when you grieve in advance. When somebody is so ill and you see that this illness is not getting better, sometimes you start to grieve. Even when the person is still alive, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Is this ever going to get better? So probably she could have gone through her own process. And at the end of it, in as much as she's mourning her husband, she's also realized that, look, life needs to go on and I need to look for another partner. So you cannot judge that person and say, oh, it's been too early. It's only been 2 years. No, society does not have a right to judge anybody. Everybody has a time lapse for their journey. So that is the first thing. The second thing is telling people who are grieving that you know what they're feeling. Please, just say that, I'm with you in my thoughts and prayers. I'm with you in my thoughts and prayers. That would make the person feel better, because when you say you know what you're feeling, then you're tickling, that because you cannot, even no two stories are the same. You cannot absolutely know how somebody is feeling, even if you've lost a loved one as well. So just say that you're with them in their thoughts and prayers. I remember a friend of mine said to me, oh, I know how you're feeling. And I flipped. I said, you can't know how I'm feeling. Your sister is sitting right next to you. What are you talking about? I did not wish her sister dead, but I thought that was why would you tell me you know what I'm feeling when you've not actually been through it? So sometimes that is not the right thing to say when someone is grieving. Don't tell them you know how they feel. No, you cannot own their pain. Just leave them and just tell them, look, I'm with you in my thoughts and prayers. God console you, whatever you can say, but don't tell them how to feel or telling them you know how they're feeling, because people are very, very, they are tenterhooks at that time. Emotions are very raw, and sometimes what you say, even though you do not mean it in a bad way, can have an adverse effect on that person. The same way as if you give them a kind word, if you give them a hug, if you give them, just holding their hands and saying, oh, my sister, it's well, God has a reason for it. Just hold on tight. You're going to come out of it. All of these are kind words that a lot of people that are grieving, especially if they've lost a loved one, would love to hear. So those are the kind of things that you would need to get the book. I would recommend the book seriously for anybody that has lost a loved one, or that is grieving, or that is feeling anxious, because it's not even just the physical grief that we can see. Some people are grieving mentally, maybe because they're anxious, maybe because they're feeling depressed. What is happening out there now? You're not sure about your job. You're not sure about what's going to happen. And then a lot of us, Black and ethnic minority workers, we are frontline workers, a lot of us. So when the COVID started, we had the highest cases. We were the ones that were mainly affected. So a lot of people were anxious for themselves and their loved ones. A lot of migrant workers could not turn down work that were working with agencies. They had to go, into the wards and the hospitals to do their job. So there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of mental affectiveness. It did affect people a lot. So even if it is just that, you're just anxious, you don't know what's going to happen, just grab a copy of the book. It would help you. That's all I can say.
And where can they get the book from?
It's on my website, www.ladyemiakinola.com. And of course, if you reach out to me from any of the above platforms I've said before, my Facebook, on the foundation Facebook, we'll be able to mail it out to you, or you get it. You can order it on the website.
Okay. Please order the book. It's that's the book there. Please order it. It's going to be very helpful. It's very, very helpful. When you read it, you understand more, and you know how to process your grieving, your grieving, and all that kind of a thing. And you can also get in touch with her through her Facebook page. And can you tell us your email address, please?
vohfoundation@hotmail.com.
Can you repeat that again?
VOH, which is Voice of Hope, VOH foundation@hotmail.com.
Thank you very much. Actually, from what you just said now, I was just going to say that, healing, time heals. But when you're saying time heals, it's just that it's not it's just that people say, with time you get better.
No.
With time. I mean,
like I said,
said.
If somebody is grieving,
Mm.
when you say time heals, what they would connote from that is that after a specific time lapse, maybe a month or two, maybe a
No.
year or two, that they would be completely healed.
Mm-mm.
Time can fade it. Your pain can fade. Your pain will fade after time, yes. But if it is a pain that is impactful, it might never go away. Especially if it's in an area that it's a loss that can't come back, or if it's if it's an event that has happened to you that you can't turn back, the hands of time. Okay, let's take for example, somebody is robbed at gunpoint and the person is shot. Now, when you're shot, you it's not fatal, so you don't die, but the person has lost the use of their limbs, or they have lost a part of their body. Now, when you tell that person that time heals, what exactly is time going to heal? Because every time they think about that incident, they look at themselves and everything, they're like, oh, if this didn't happen to me, I would have been this now. If this incident never happened. And sometimes they blame themselves. Why did I go down that street? Why did I go and visit this person? If somebody is raped, why did I go there? Why was I wearing this? So you start to blame yourself and you internalize all of these things. So when you
That
tell such a person time heals, time doesn't heal. No, it will fade away. What they need to do is to make sense of the situation that they're in. So, for example, they have found themselves in a wheelchair. Let's move on from there. What has happened has happened. We can't turn it back, because that kind of injury is not one that you can turn back and say, oh, I'm going to get my legs back. Even if you do get aesthetic legs, it's not going to be the same. So when you tell such a person, oh, time is going to heal everything, then you're not being honest with them. But encouraging them to say, okay, how can we move forward? What do we do from there? Encouraging them to find an initiative. For example, a rape victim. Why don't you set up a support group? Why don't you do something? Somebody that has lost a loved one, why don't you do something in memory of that person? I remember when I launched my book 3 months ago in August, I said that some of the proceeds are going to go to the hospice that my sister was in. And I've been running with that now, because it gives me, every time I sell a copy of a book, I'm
joy.
thinking, oh, yes, I'm closer to the, to the amounts that I promised them. I'm closer, I'm encouraging people. As people are reading the book, I'm also thinking of how I can give back. So when you give yourself, a purpose to that pain, when you put something down and you're running with it, it's better than telling them that time is going to heal it when you know that you cannot promise that. So that is why I say in the book, time doesn't heal. No, it can
Now, what
fade.
I'm still going to say, Lady Yemi, is that as time goes on,
Yes.
the pain reduces.
It
That's
will
what
fade.
you are
Yes.
doing. So
It will
time
fade.
heals with time, because
Yeah,
there are people.
you
No, it's not that when the thing happened to you immediately. That's not going to use that word time heal. Okay,
know.
but generally, as time goes on, of course, as time goes on, you have to get up, and there's healing taking place. If there is no healing, you wouldn't have written that book. If there is no healing, you would have been talking about what happened to you now. It's because
Mm.
of that healing inside of you that have given you that that what can I use now, that gives you that the reason to stand up and say, what, that's life.
Okay.
I have to continue,
Um,
do something.
I can take that on board. I can take it on board. It might interest you to know that even in this book, there's another chapter on faith. Now, if your faith could you could find healing, you can find succor, you can find comfort in your faith, because at times like this, faith plays a very, very great role.
It does.
So I will not. I can agree with you on that. That when you hang on to your faith, well, for whatever your faith is leaning towards, when you hang on to that, you would get some kind of healing. You would get comfort. You find succor. But then that you would that it will go away finally. There's some kind of pain that might not fade. It might not be healed. But
Mm.
what you can do is you can manage it. It's
Mm.
now acceptable. You don't feel that sharp, intake of pain every time you think about that person or you talk about that situation. You can manage that pain, but it might not go away, completely.
Yeah, it depends on the individual. God will help us. It depends on the individual. Even me, I lost a loved one, my cousin. Oh my God, it's so long ago. It's over 40 years ago, and that because now thinking back, it was a trauma for me. Nobody, no counseling. Nobody would say, "Oh, Carol, are you okay?" It happened right in my presence. I was the one that carried the boy up and rushed. I was about 10 years old, about 9 years or 10 years old. And that's the day that I knew the power of a woman. If you look at this guy, is huge and big. I lifted him up and I started screaming. Do you know it was very, very recently, a few years back now, about less than 5 years ago, that thing came back to me again. And this time I was crying.
That is
And
what we call
it's
repressed
time.
grief. It's another form of grief when something happens to you initially, you're not able to react, but it goes with you through childhood, and sometimes it manifests when a similar incident happens or a jolt of memory comes to you, and you realize that I've not actually grieved for this thing, and
Yeah.
that is when your grieving will start. Yes.
Yeah, and just for the past 2 3 years, I'm actually saying I'm going to set up a foundation in his name, and I call it the Forgotten Ones. Because after that accident, nobody ever talked about him. Nobody even know that he was ever existed. And you guess what I'm saying? And
Yes.
it's time I say it, I still feel very emotional about it. I know. So one way or the other, you heal somehow, but you can always go back, dig it out. But individually can decide and say, you know what, we have to move forward. And then things will get better a little bit. Time is not on our side. Oh my God. Let me just quickly ask this question. The same question I ask everyone that come on this show. Looking back now, what is one mistake that you have made in life that we can, learn from?
um Mistake. I don't see anything that I've been through in my life as being a mistake. I believe that life is a learning curve. Life throws you, just when you're meandering through a river, it's never a straight course. You have to go through, turns and bends. So whatever I have been through in life has not been a mistake. It has been there so that it would teach me. It has been there so that it would promote me. It's been there so that I would learn from it and take myself up. So I don't see anything as a mistake, because if you look at life as if you have made one or two mistakes, there's a tendency for you to be pained about it. There's a tendency for you to think, oh, if only I didn't do it this way, if only I didn't say this, if maybe something would have happened, maybe if only I didn't marry this person, maybe if only I didn't have this child at that age, if only, you keep on asking whys and whys. But I don't know, maybe as a woman of faith, I just believe anything that happens to you, it happens for a reason. So the Bible tells us that everything is for a reason. So it's that reason that I find and I run with it. I think, okay, this thing is here to push me to my next level. And I think that's the story of my life, because if you recollect, I said, just to promote, and then I moved on to news, and from news I moved on to getting my own program, and from there I moved on to another, and from there, so it has always been a gradual thing. One thing pushes me into another. Now my recent book has pushed me into counseling, bereavement counseling, which is something that I think our society needs much more of now, which is where I'm heading to. So no mistake. Nothing ever happens by mistake.
Thank you very much. In a minute, can you just encourage people out there, you know, to just encourage, give a word of encouragement to somebody out there that is watching us now, that is going through one issue in life or the other, and is just, about to give up.
Hi, my name is Lady Emi, Olivia Oluyemi Akinola. I'm reaching out to you today. Don't give up. There's hope. Everybody has a story. No journey is ever the same. Don't look at what people are going to say Just say no to conspiracy of silence. Get yourself up from that situation. There's help around. Trust me, a lot of people have been through worse and they've made it. If they can make it, why not you? Reach out for help. Anywhere you think that you can get help, please reach out. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that are waiting to receive you and help you. Don't lose hope. You're valuable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've heard it from our sister. Don't lose hope. You are valuable. We are all valuable. We're made in the image of God. It's for you to.
Wonderfully and
The
beautifully
Bible
made.
also said, it said we all have a purpose. He has a plan for you. The
Yes.
plan that he has for you is of good, not of evil, to bring you to an expected end. So yes, we all have to go through. The Bible also said, it said the rain fall upon the just and unjust. Don't just sit down where you are, or because something has happened to you and you're saying, why me? Why me? Why me? This is the reason why we do this kind of program. Turning your pain to purpose. He said, when life gives you a lemon, if a life gives you a lime, turn it to a lemonade. There's something you can do. Go out there and help somebody else that is going through what you have been through. Just anyhow, just go there. You'll be surprised. As time goes on, things will begin to turn around for you, and then you'll be able to to advise other people out there, just as our sister is here now to tell you that you can turn your pain to a purpose. Who knows the reason why? I spoke about Job earlier on. We all knew. We read it. It's easier said than done, of course. When things happen to you, for you to take it, complain, oh my God, how can I do this? But when you now begin to go out and advise or encourage people, that gives you this energy, the power to say, okay, now I can move forward a little bit. It's not that you're forgotten about that person. It's not that you've forgotten that particular situation or challenge, but you're just moving on to be an encouragement to other people out there. Like my sister said, don't give up. Please stand up, get up and keep moving. Maybe you'll be the next guest on this show soon. All right. God bless you all. Let's say bye bye to all our viewers out there. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everybody, for tuning in today. And a privilege, Minister Carol, for having me on
Thank
your
you
program.
very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you. All right. God bless you all. We say bye bye to every one of you out there.
Bye.
Share, go to my YouTube channel, MCB TV channel, and subscribe to it. Thank you very much. Bye.